Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series, Essays on the Gita, with our beloved Ranga. We are now on page 21, The Human Disciple, beginning with the line, Arjuna is the fighter in the chariot.
Yeah. So, Arjuna is a fighter in the chariot with the divine Krishna as his charioteer. In the Veda, also, we have this image of the human soul and the divine riding in one chariot through a great battle to the goal of a high aspiring effort. But there it's a pure figure and symbol. The divine is there, Indra, master of the world of light and immortality. The power of divine knowledge which descends to the aid of the human seeker, battling with the sons of falsehood, darkness, limitation, mortality. The battle is with spiritual enemies who bar the way to the higher world of our being. And the goal is that plane of vast being, resplendent with the light of the supreme truth, and uplifted to the conscious immortality of the perfected soul, of which Indra is the master. The human soul is Kutsa, he who constantly seeks the seer knowledge, as his name implies, and he is the son of Arjuna or Arjuni, the white one, child of Switra, the white mother. He is, that is to say, the sattvic or purified and light-filled soul, which is open to the unbroken glories of the divine knowledge. And when the chariot reaches the end of its journey, the own home of Indra, the human Kutsa has grown into such an exact likeness of his divine companion that he can only be distinguished by Shachi, the wife of Indra, because she is truth conscious. The parable is evidently of the inner life of man. It's a figure of the human growing into the likeness of the eternal divine by the increasing illumination of knowledge. But the Gita starts from action, and Arjuna is the man of action, not of knowledge. The fighter, never the seer or the thinker. So, Arjuna is a fighter in the chariot. So, he is representative of a human being who is aspiring for a higher life and is fighting. Fighting whom? Fighting the enemies of his own progress. So, he has to fight the limitations in his own being. And the chariot, obviously, the chariot is the body, mind, life, the outer nature that we have. But the divine Krishna is there as his charioteer. The divine is there in each human being and he is guiding you. But he is hiding behind the veils, the thick veils of the body, the vital and the mind. Therefore, the guidance always does not reach your outer nature. That's why it is a struggle and that's a fight. He has to keep on fighting. Now, Srimad is giving a very similar image in the Veda. In the Veda, also, we have this image of the human soul and the divine riding in one chariot through a great battle to the goal of a high aspiring effort. So, it's note interestingly, in the Veda we also have the image of the human soul. Okay, so the human soul, even if it is the psychic being, and the divine. So the divine seems to be even more than the psychic being. The psychic being is a representative of the divine. But the divine also is there. We go back to the famous 18th chapter shloka of the Gita, where he says, Ishvara sarva bhutanam hriddeshe tishtati. The Supreme Lord is there, established in the heart center of every human creature. Okay, so he is very much there. So the psychic being is evolving, but the divine who is there, the divine does not evolve, but he is there present in each human being, guiding as far as possible through the limitations of the body-mind life. So the Vedic symbol is so similar to Arjuna. He is in a chariot, and there is also Sri Krishna who is the divine with him. In fact, the divine is the charioteer. In other words, what is it? He is guiding. So he is the guiding, and the Arjuna is the human soul who is benefiting from the guidance to the extent of his capacity. Okay, so high and the divine riding in one chariot through a great battle to the goal of a high aspiring effort. So what is this high aspiring effort? He is going to tell you. But there in the Veda, he means it's a pure figure and symbol. He is contrasting that with the Gita, where the Gita is not only a symbol, but a practical guidance. This is what Srimad goes on stressing throughout, that Arjuna is the practical man of action. He is not a seer. He doesn't have the knowledge yet, but is ready for the knowledge. Okay, so there he is saying, but there it's a pure figure and symbol. The divine there is Indra. Indra is the king of the devas, the king of the divine beings, gods, if you want. Master of the world of light and harmony, of immortality. The power of divine knowledge which descends to the aid of the human seeker, battling with the sons of falsehood, darkness, limitation, mortality. That's why he's a fighter. He has to fight. Now, who are these sons of falsehood, darkness, limitation, mortality? There could be two interpretations. One is that his own limitations are the sons of falsehood, the darkness, the limitation and the mortality. But they could also be the hostile beings which exist in the universe. There are hostile beings just as there are gods. There are also the asuric forces in the universe. So he has to fight them also. Maybe we don't have to fight them very strongly at our level because there is so much of imperfection. But once you start becoming a spiritual personality, then the hostiles attack you like anything. So that is probably also what he means. In fact, normally when you speak of the sons of falsehood, darkness, limitation and bhakti, it is usually the asuras.
Agree.
Because right at the highest level, when the one becomes two, there is Diti and Aditi. Aditi means one, and Diti means two. So, from the supermental, when it comes down to the overmental level, the division starts. So, the one becomes two. And out of these two, one goes towards the good and the other goes towards the what we would consider bad. Okay? But you can put it in different terminology. You can say one is going towards the gods who have a divine nature, and the other is going towards the asuras who also have great powers and knowledge and tapasya and all. But the difference between the asuras and the gods are that the asuras are always egoistic in their ways. That's the only difference. And even in human beings often, if your ego is very strong, you can become an agent. You can become a representative of the asuric forces.
I guess what I've understood from Mother is that they are her children also.
Yes,
But at the same time, she has to fight them too.
yes, that's right. They are also children. But children who, and they can't be killed, they can't be eliminated, because they are created by the Brahman. So they will always be there. They have to be transformed.
And Mother said she transformed 2 of the 4 major ones?
I think there was some who agreed.
Who agreed to
Yeah.
be? Ah, okay.
But that's the thing, yeah. So, the sons of falsehood, darkness, limitation, mortality. Aditya is another name for the sun, and Aditi becomes Aditya, the descendants. And Diti, you apply the grammatical function of guna and vriddhi. So when you apply vriddhi, Diti becomes Daitya, and Aditi becomes Aditya. The battle is with spiritual enemies who bar the way to the higher world of our being. And the goal is that plane of vast being, resplendent with the light of the supreme truth and uplifted to the conscious immortality of the perfected soul, of which Indra is the master. So, we can identify the words when he is saying that the battle is with spiritual enemies. We have discussed that, who bar the way to the higher world of our being. The higher world of our own being. We are all these things. The human being is really divine essentially, but is also at the lower end. He has a body which seems to be the anti-divine. But that's also part of the divine in a veiled manner. So he is everything, right from the top to the bottom. The higher world of our being. And the goal, where is the journey going to end? Where is the chariot going? Is that plane of vast being resplendent with the light of the supreme truth. So this is obviously the supermind. You have to go right up to there. First of all, the word vast, which corresponds to the Vedic Brihat, okay? Then being resplendent with the light of the supreme truth. Supreme truth. So it's obviously he is referring to the supermind. And to the uplifted, conscious immortality of the perfected soul. We are also conscious mentally of our immortality. I know theoretically that I am immortal, but it has become a conscious immortality, not a mental immortality. It has become a real immortality. We know it theoretically, it has become practically. That's why the word conscious immortality of the perfected soul, of which Indra is the master. The human soul is Kutsa. He who constantly seeks the seer knowledge, as his name implies. And he is the son of Arjuna or Arjuni, the white one, child of Switra, the white mother. He is, that is to say, the sattvic or purified and light-filled soul which is open to the unbroken glories of the divine knowledge. A sattvic soul is one who lives more in the mind than in the vital or the body. So he is ready now for a higher life. You have the 3 elements, the tamasic, which corresponds to the body, the rajasic, which corresponds to the vital, and you have the sattvic, which corresponds to the mind. You are ready for a higher level of knowledge. But the sattvic man is not necessarily the spiritual man. You have to go beyond sattva, rajas, tamas. You have to go beyond your body, mind, life.
So he says the human soul is Kutsa.
Yeah.
And then if we look down below, he says the sattvic or purified and light-filled soul, which is open to the unbroken glories of the divine knowledge.
Yes.
So is it Kutsa or is it...
The purified, that is to say, sattvic or purified the light-filled soul which is open to the unbroken glories of the divine knowledge. So light-filled soul, we must understand that not spiritual light, but the mental light at the human ignorant level, because he is open to the unbroken glories of the divine knowledge. So Arjuna is very clearly not yet a spiritual man. He is a normal man ready for a higher knowledge. So, light-filled soul, we mustn't think that he is only sattvic. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And when the chariot reaches the end of its journey, the own home of Indra. Okay? This own home, throughout this whole paragraph, he is using words which resonate in the Veda. Okay? The own home, the word is Swe Dame, in his own home. Again and again he is using words here which correspond. The chariot, the journey. The whole Vedic concept is that there is a journey that the human soul is doing right from the bottom to the top. And by the time he goes to the top, he has put on a human nature. And when the chariot reaches the end of its journey, the own home of Indra, the human Kutsa has grown into such an exact likeness of his divine companion that he can only be distinguished by Sachi, the wife of Indra, because she is truth conscious. Because she is truth conscious. Now, all the gods have their consorts, their counterparts, the feminine counterparts. And these are the powers. They are the Purusha and the Prakriti. So, the Sachi is always the divine power also, whether it be power, but they are truth conscious. They are conscious of the truth. They may be more power than truth, but they are truth conscious. Okay, so the parable is evidently of the inner life of man. It's a figure of the human growing into the likeness of the eternal divine by the increasing illumination of knowledge. But the Gita starts from action, and Arjuna is a man of action and not of knowledge, the fighter, never the seer or the thinker. Because if he was the seer, then the advice given by Sri Krishna would not be necessary even. So he is an ordinary man who has to be given the knowledge so that he can go to a spiritual life. That the Gita goes on right from the beginning, stressing this aspect. That the Gita is not a symbol, nor is it only a question of spiritual knowledge in theory. It is a very, very practical guidance for life in the world. How to reach it. Constantly there is a stress. In fact, right from the beginning of the next para, we will see that. Okay? The Gita is practical guidance in the physical world. To such an extent that nowadays it's not uncommon for top executives in certain companies to know about the Gita. Okay? They know. Okay? In India, it is not uncommon. They all study the Gita. How to deal practically with problems in the physical world. There is a school of management, I think by Tatas, in Jamshedpur. Okay? They teach the book that Dr. Dalal has compiled. Okay? I forget the name of the book. Living Within. They teach that in the school of management. So, because management in the physical world, you must yourself be developed enough to be able to deal with the outside world. Okay? So, we read the next one. From the beginning of the Gita, this characteristic temperament of the disciple is clearly indicated and it is maintained throughout. It becomes first evident in the manner in which he is awakened to the sense of what he is doing. The great slaughter of which he is to be the chief instrument, in the thoughts which immediately rise in him, in the standpoint and the psychological motives which make him recoil from the whole terrible catastrophe. They are not the thoughts, the standpoint, the motives of a philosophical or even a deeply reflective mind or a spiritual temperament confronted with the same or a similar problem. They are those, as we might say, of the practical or the pragmatic man, the emotional, sensational, moral, and intelligent human being, not habituated to profound and original reflection or any sounding of the depths, accustomed rather to high but fixed standards of thought and action, and a confident treading through all vicissitudes and difficulties, who now finds all his standards failing him and all the basis of his confidence in himself and his life shorn away from under him at a single stroke. That is the nature of the crisis which he undergoes. So, now he needs to be given practical guidance. He had certain standards of conduct, and now he finds that his standards of conduct are not valid anymore. He has to fight a battle in which he has to kill. And killing is his own people. So he is very much puzzled. How can he kill his own grandfather, his own guru, his own relatives? So it's a problem. So this is a practical problem that he has to face in the world. So, the Gita teaches you how to deal with a situation like that.
And very clear.
Yeah.
Very, very clear.
Yeah.
From the beginning of the Gita.
Yeah. From the beginning. It's a practical guidance. It's not just spiritual theoretical knowledge. There is a lot of theoretical knowledge, but it's practical guidance mainly. Arjuna is, in the language of the Gita, a man subject to the action of the three gunas or modes of the nature force and habituated to move unquestioningly in that field, like the generality of men. He justifies his name only in being so far pure and sattvic as to be governed by high and clear principles and impulses, and habitually control his lower nature by the noblest law which he knows. He is not of a violent asuric disposition, not the slave of his passions, but has been trained to a high calm and self-control, to an unswerving performance of his duties and firm obedience to the best principles of the time and society in which he has lived, and the religion and ethics to which he has been brought up. He is egoistic like other men, but with a purer or sattvic egoism which regards the moral law and society and the claims of others, and not only or predominantly his own interests, desires and passions. He has lived and guided himself by the Shastra, the moral and social code. The thought which preoccupies him, the standard which he obeys, is the Dharma, that collective Indian conception of the religious, social, moral rule of conduct, and especially the rule of the station and function to which he belongs. He is the Kshatriya, the high-minded, self-governed, chivalrous prince and warrior and leader of Aryan men. Following always this rule, conscious of virtue and right dealing, he has travelled so far and finds suddenly that it has led him to become the protagonist of a terrific and unparalleled slaughter, a monstrous civil war involving all the cultured Aryan nations, which must lead to the complete destruction of the flower of their manhood and threatens their ordered civilization with chaos and collapse. So, he is faced with this problem. Very clearly, Arjuna is not a spiritual man. He is a very, very practical man. But he is at the highest level of the normal human being. He is sattvic and he has got ideals. He is a Kshatriya and he obeys the laws that a Kshatriya has to undergo. And yet he has a problem. He is suddenly faced with a situation where he cannot carry out the laws of the Kshatriya. So that's a problem. The standards which I had are suddenly being challenged in life. How to deal with them? There's one very interesting thing about the dharma, so we'll have a look at that because there's a lot of confusion about the word dharma. Okay, so the rest of it is all description of Arjuna, very clear, establishing the fact that he is not a spiritual man and needs guidance, but he is ready for it. Okay, I'll quickly go through the sentences. Yes. Arjuna is, in the language of the Gita, a man subject to the action of the three gunas. The three gunas are the sattva, rajas, tamas, corresponding to the body, mind and life. Okay, so when you say that he is subject to the gunas, he is identified with his mind, life and body. He thinks that that's what he is. He is not aware of his inner divine nature. He is ordinary, like an ordinary man. Okay? But he has to become Triguna-atita. He has to go beyond the three gunas. Then you don't identify yourself with your body, mind, life. You are up above. Okay? Beyond the three gunas. Or modes of the nature force and habituated to move unquestioningly in that field. In the physical world, he is subject to the gunas. Like the generality of men, everybody is that. He justifies his name only in being so far pure and sattvic as to be governed by high and clear principles and impulses and habitually control his lower nature by a noblest law which he knows. So he is at the human level, he is at the highest level. He is not of a violent asuric disposition, not the slave of his passions, but has been trained to a high calm and self-control, to an unswerving performance of his duties and firm obedience to the best principles of the time and society in which he has lived and the religion and ethics to which he has been brought up. I would point out to you how Srimad is very, very clearly saying the best principles, not eternal principles, but the principles of his time and society. He has told us right in the beginning, if you remember, that there are two things. There is the eternal truths, which are immutable. And there are shastras, scriptures, which try to embody that truth, but they are put into words, and therefore they are mutable. And the standards go on changing from age to age. So he is again repeating that very clearly here. He is saying the best principles of the time and society, okay, in which he has lived, and the religion and ethics to which he has been brought up. Religion and ethics. Religion also varies, ethics also varies in each community and each country, okay, in every collectivity. He is egoistic like other men, but with a purer or sattvic egoism which regards the moral law and society and the claims of others, and not only or predominantly his own interests, desires and passions. So he is egoistic like other men, but not extremely selfish. He is considering other people's pure claims of others also. Okay? He regards
The sattvic egoism.
Huh?
The sattvic egoism.
Yeah.
Can you explain that?
You can have a tamasic ego, you can have a vital ego, and you can have a sattvic ego. A sattvic ego is a very interesting thing, and normally a man who is sattvic, okay, he does not show any anger, he does not show any tendency to wrong action, okay. All his movements and his thoughts and his feelings are measured, temperate, okay, tempered, they are not extreme, okay.
Can we also say that's the same for the tamasic man?
No, we can't.
Measured, tempered?
No, because there it is darkness. Here it is light. In the sattvic man, there is light. But in the tamasic man, there is total darkness. He is ignorant and all his actions are bound to be very limited and very wrong also. Okay? So the sattvic ego is one who is like that. But yet, there is an overestimation of his own capacities. There is pride of knowledge in the sattvic man. Or there is pride of my own standards. I will not swerve, unswerving standards, use the word. Okay? So that is also part of the sattvic nature. Okay, so he is like the purer sattvic egoism, yeah, which regards the moral law and society and the claims of others, and not only or predominantly his own interests, rather than passions. Very often you will see that sattvic egoism is there even in refined natures. Okay? If they are not spiritual, their egoism can be subtle egoism if you want. Okay, but you can see that there is an ego. Now, he has lived and guided himself by the Shastra, the scripture of that country and time, the moral and social code. The thought which preoccupies him, the standard which he obeys, is a dharma. That rule of conduct, and especially the rule of the station and function to which he belongs, he is a Kshatriya, the high-minded, the self-governed, chivalrous prince and warrior and leader of Aryan men. Now this word dharma, okay, we should be very clear. It comes from the Sanskrit root dhri, to hold. Okay? To hold on to a standard. So, normally dharma is translated as, commonly understood as religion, okay? Or duty. People speak of it as duty or dharma, okay? Or conduct of it. But the word dharma is something beyond religion and beyond all. It is the law at which level you are, and you have to stick to that. So if you are a sattvic person, you have to stick to the sattvic principles. If you are at the lower levels, you have to try to go to the higher level, but the dharma is actually it is much better to explain the word dharma by the Brahmin, the Kshatriya, the Vaishya and the Shudra. So what is the dharma of the Brahmin? Knowledge, light, and he has to stick to that. He should not fall below that standard. That's his dharma. What about the dharma of the Kshatriya? He has to be chivalrous, he has to be courageous, he has to protect the weak, he has to have the power of governance, okay, and control. That is the dharma. What about the dharma of the Vaishya, the merchant class, or the, they have to produce wealth, splendor, beauty. These are the standards which are there. So this is what he has to maintain. And there is normally also a lot of charity in him. Okay, he should be charitable with his wealth. It should not be only for himself. He should be able to create wealth and splendor and beauty and all, but it should be shared with others. That's the standard of the Vaishya.
And this is not the standard of the Sattvic?
Pardon?
This is not the standards of the...
No, not the highest. It goes on varying. That's the whole point. Dharma is not one standard. It's a standard which you have to obey. And what about the standard of the Shudra? He should be, his main function is service, loyalty, service and labor. So he should be true to his own service and his labor. So what would that be? Loyalty to his master, okay, obedience, okay, doing the work that he is doing to the best of his capacity. That is the dharma of the Shudra.
So the dharma of the Brahmin does not include him being generous?
Generousness is okay. Generousness is common to all. Huh?
Oh, yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah, generousness is common to all. The law we spoke of is the light and knowledge. Of course, you have to be generous with your knowledge. If you are not generous with your knowledge, you are a sattvic ego. You have a sattvic ego. So, this is dharma that he is speaking about. So, it is neither religion nor is it duty, as you often say. There is a man who works with me in the Mother India office. When they were asked what is dharma, he says, I know what dharma is. Dharma is duty. You have to do what you have to do. It's a very vague way of putting it. Okay. Dharma is not something fixed. There is no equivalent word in English, Srimad says. Because it's very vast. You have to define it in many ways. Dharma. Following always this rule, conscious of virtue and right dealing, he has travelled so far and finds suddenly that it has led him to become the protagonist of a terrific and unparalleled slaughter, a monstrous civil war involving all the cultured Aryan nations, which must lead to the complete destruction of the flower of their manhood and threaten their ordered civilization with chaos and collapse. Just while reading this sentence, suddenly the idea came to me that this must have been the problem facing Abraham Lincoln. Just think about it. He has to destroy the evil practices and it will cause a lot of damage and there will be a lot of killing. But he has to stick to his principle. Exactly the same thing for Arjuna. It's very interesting. And he had the courage and the guts to do it.
And he was killed for it.
Yeah, he paid a price.
Yes, he paid the price.
He had to pay a heavy price. So, this is what he's saying. He finds himself to be the protagonist. Protagonist, the main character of any story or any event. Okay, so complete destruction of the flower of manhood and threaten their ordered civilization and chaos and collapse. So next time we'll start with, it is typical again of the pragmatic man.